Nvidia stunned everybody once again with their earnings. Unbelievable earnings. They continue to just beat every expectation. We talk about on Bay Street and Wall Street, we talk about whisper numbers. We talk about, okay, the company's projecting so much in earnings, so much in revenues. And then you hear the whisper number, which is, well, maybe they can make another billion or so. Well, Nvidia not only beats the expectations, but they beat the whisper number as well. They're just an unbelievable. As I mentioned, I think earlier in the show, revenues were up, I think something like 216% year over year. Third largest company in the world, almost, well over 2 trillion in market cap. Stock splitting 10 for 1, and I want to come back to that in a few moments, talk a bit about that. But the company, biggest chip maker, obviously, by far in the world today. And it's unbelievable that how much or how fast Nvidia has grown as a company. Some people call the CEO, Jensen Huang, of Nvidia, the godfather of artificial intelligence. Most of what you see in artificial intelligence is being powered by Nvidia chips. Nvidia has had such a head start on the rest of the competition, whether it's AMD, Advanced Micro Devices, whether it's Qualcomm, whether it's some of the other big tech names that are starting to build their own chips, Apples, the Microsofts, the Amazons, the Googles. They're just well ahead, and it's unbelievable. And for those that own the shares now, you've been on a pretty nice ride over the past few years. I have a chart of Nvidia that we could show here. This is a 1-year chart, and you could see it had a tremendous run from, again, November up until about April. Then we lost, or we saw Nvidia lose about 10-15% of share value there, and then only to then surge ahead just before the earnings that came out just recently, and then surge once again after. And we're now seeing Nvidia well over $1,000 a share, 1,100 when we took this picture and the picture or showed the chart, 1,100, well over $1,100 a share. There are expectations that you could see this stock get to 1,200, 1,300. Unbelievable. But what I wanted to touch on with respect to Nvidia, as I mentioned briefly, is the stock split. We are going to see a 10 for 1 stock split. So what does that mean for those that are watching? Well, if you have 10 shares of Nvidia, you're going to get 10 shares for every one that you have, so 9 more. So if you had 10 shares, when the stock splits, you're now going to have 100 shares of Nvidia. However, because you're getting 10 times the amount of shares, the stock price will be 1/10 of its value. So instead of having 10 shares at $100, you're going to have 100 shares at $10, using this as an example. So right now, the price of Nvidia is, let's say, $1,100. You're going to have 10 times the amount of shares at about $110 a share. So net, the effect actually is zero. There is no benefit. There is no bonus. There is no extra. Yeah, you get some extra shares, but now the shares are only worth 1/10 of their value. So I received a lot of phone calls, a lot of messages, emails. Alan, I heard Nvidia is splitting 10 for 1. Should I buy some? And my comment, or my I guess answer is, well, let's take a look at the stock. Let's evaluate the stock. Let's see where the stock is trading. And I did that. And recently it was trading in mid-30s, 35 times earnings, which I thought was reasonable and slightly cheap for this name compared to other chip makers. But now it's jumped up to 42, 43 times forward earnings, so a lot more expensive. And so I don't want to buy a stock because it's announced a 10 for 1 stock split, because in the end, maybe there's a little bit of hype because people are confused or fooled that they have more shares. So this means that maybe they have more money. And you tend to see stocks that announce a stock split, their stock price actually rises in the short term. But over the long term, people will realize that, no, they don't have more of Nvidia. They have the same amount, and they just have more shares. More shares are issued from Nvidia. And overall, over time, I should say, that actually isn't a good thing for the stock. When you have more shares out there, that's dilutive. That dilutes the value. So you want to have less shares. When company buy back stock, that is much better than when they issue more shares. But why do they do a 10 for 1 stock split? Well, how many people can afford to buy shares when they're over $1,000 versus when they're $100? obviously a lot cheaper for the average investor to buy. So that's why the company does things like that for their employees, their stock purchase plans, etc. So that's why they do it. But I just wanted to explain to all of you today that are watching, yes, a stock split usually is good for the share price because people, as I said, like the idea of owning more shares. But at the end of the day, you're no better off than if you just own the stock at $1,000 a share or $100 a share and own less shares. It's the same thing. The value in your portfolio will not change. So for all of those that are thinking about buying Nvidia because of the stock split, think again and perhaps do some analysis before you do, because the stock actually is a lot more expensive today than it was just a few weeks ago.